Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin, and I'm joined by my brilliant co-host, Ron Ward. Ron,
You should.
I love saying your name. It's like I'm a game show host.
You should have introduced me as the guy who writes his own intros. Because
Yeah. I know.
yeah,
Call you out.
That's what I did. All right. Well, as we are recording, this is Tuesday, July 1st. It's Kristin's birthday.
All right.
Now, this will air on Thursday, but Kristin, I thought, why not bring out the old guitar?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Here we go.
Amazing.
Sing along if you're driving. Happy birthday to you.
Woo!
Happy birthday to you.
Woo!
Happy birthday, dear Kristin.
Puberty.
Happy birthday to you.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was awesome and unexpected.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. Most people know I'm not a big birthday person, so I generally don't advertise it. So I did not ask Ron to do that. That was
No one's
100%.
a big birthday person after 40, Kristin. Trust me.
Oh, I know people that have like, it's my birthday month. It's my birthday week. And I find it odd. I'll be honest.
Don't you
But,
find it interesting? Haley used to do that. My oldest, like we always called it Haley's birthday month.
That's
It's
funny.
in July. Ooh, I'm glad I said that. I thought I got
Oh,
busy.
yeah.
But once she had a kid,
Yeah.
you know,
Totally
it
different.
just becomes all about the kids. So anyway,
Right.
Kristin, man, you know that I am just squirming because this, folks, I've said it only a few times. This may be one of my favorite episodes. So you do not want to miss 1 second of this podcast, and you need to share it with your friends, especially younger people. They need to know this, what we're going to go into. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, today's topic is going to talk about the intricate workings of our brain and how it ties into effective leadership. I want to start off, Kristin, and I've been waiting to say this, but as you know, over the past couple years, I've trained around the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to, any experienced trainer, and I know you've done a lot of public speaking, you can tell if the audience is either absorbing what you're saying or some of it is kind of bouncing back, or maybe you got schisms in there. You got a few that don't want to be there.
You can engage their engagement level.
You really can. I mean, it's almost like this psychological meter that you have.
Yes.
So in doing this, I really began to think about it because I have gone places. And Kristin, I have refined my training. So, I would love to have what I have now the first time I did training. Sure. I know that it's pretty effective stuff and I'm getting that kind of feedback. But I can go to a certain place and the people are, they participate, but I can tell they're not having as much fun and so forth and so on. And I started to think about it. But each and every time, the executive leadership team was driving the train. The more I thought about it. And I just did some training where, it was just laughter and interactivity. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But the executive team, they were in it. They were laughing. They were participating. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about oxytocin. The deputy chief, I was talking about touch. We'll get into that. But anyway, I went back because he's a friendly guy. This was in Texas. And I touched his shoulder and said, if it's appropriate, this can release oxytocin. He said, hey, could you give me a little shoulder rub? So I rubbed his shoulders a little bit while I'm still training. I wish we'd have captured that on video.
Oh, yeah. And then that gets the audience roaring because it's unexpected.
It was laughter.
Yeah.
And, I was doing pre-bridge cues, which means you walk in if my arms are open, like I want a hug.
Yeah.
And this lady stood up and, I said, what does this mean I want? She said, a hug. And I said, great. And I started to walk away. She goes, my hug.
Oh,
so I
love it.
I said, I never turned down a hug. I said, here's a note to always remember, never turn down a hug. So me and her had this big hug right in the middle of training. It was so much fun. It made the training so memorable.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Kristin, I've trained enough over the years and all over the United States. it is about the leadership team.
Yes, yes. It's really like I've always said, the speed of the leader, the speed of the pack. When they're there and they're in it, people are watching. You as the leader, people are watching to see how you react. And you really do drive that engagement, that energy.
Yep. So, Kristin, I did a post yesterday. I know you've got thousands of people, but, I put one up there, and it was the basis of this podcast. And it said, the attitude at the top determines the culture at the bottom.
Yes.
And
amen.
I so believe that.
Oh, I do too. I've lived it. So I absolutely know that is gospel, in my opinion. Ron, the brain is a complex organ. I'm glad we're doing this episode. And it functionally plays a significant role in how we lead and interact with our teams.
Yeah, and here's a fun fact, folks. The brain weighs 3 pounds and has over a billion molecules and cells and all that. Yeah, and then all the neurons. It's unbelievable. It is this little computer inside our heads. So anyway, it's fascinating how the chemicals in our brain, along with neurotransmitters, glands, and our nervous system all work together. And you get things like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, testosterone. Testosterone's released in the testes, a little different part of the body, but still very important.
I'm immature, so I hear testes and I can't help but laugh.
I know. And endorphins, which we'll talk about, affects our mood, decision-making. And gosh, I just love this stuff.
Yes,
all right.
yes. So let's talk about the role of dopamine. And starting with that, this often is referred to as the feel-good neurotransmitter. Ron, dive into that a little deeper for us.
Yeah, it is. And the beauty of this podcast is I have listened to so many people tell me what these things do, but I don't know how to activate it. So we're going to tell you how to activate it. Yeah. So in our own mind, if you achieve something, it's that feeling. Let's say you won first place in a sporting event or you got high grades. We get this feeling, and it's actually dopamine being released to make us celebrate our victories, to make us enjoy things. And it is a reward type system. But the beauty of dopamine is not only do you receive it, you can administer it. Kristin, if you and I are having a conversation, and let's say your son won a Taekwondo tournament, and I'm telling you, oh my gosh, tell me about the fight. You see my level of excitement?
Yeah.
And I'm plugging in. Obviously, you love your son dearly. You're proud of your son. So you're going to tell me about this, and you're going to get this big dopamine drizzle. You're going to feel good about this conversation, and in turn, feel good about me. You like to be in my presence.
Right.
I've had people go, I don't understand. Nobody likes me. And they're not administering dopamine. It's all about them.
Right. Exactly. And, the wild thing is when somebody shows that interest, like a genuine interest, then you're going to reciprocate, right? So you're either going to, match their energy level or you're going to exceed it. Generally, you're not going to see somebody that is excited approach somebody and have the other person come back with low energy. That is rare. It does happen, but it is rare.
Yeah.
When team members, so for those who are leaders and even individual contributors, when a team member feels accomplished, I'm sure every one of us has had that feeling, hopefully, the motivation spikes, right? So, and that's going to lead to an increased productivity. And you can also enhance dopamine by having a conversation with somebody on a topic they enjoy, kind of like you just mentioned with the Taekwondo, right? So we call us giving someone the dopamine drizzle, and it will make them feel good about the conversation and in turn feel good about you, the person having the conversation with them.
Yeah, I jumped ahead of you a little bit, but this is why I tell managers, you've got to have some small talk. As a matter of fact, Dr. Marissa does a presentation on small talk. I call it threading. You thread a conversation. And Kristin, the problem that we've had, and this is something I threw into training, is that I always say you have to hack the psychological system. You have to hack the system. If I say, Kristin, how are you doing? What are you going to say?
Doing
normal.
great.
Yeah, doing great. So you are programmed to say that because you probably said it a million times.
Right.
So what I want to do is hack the system. Instead of asking you how you're doing, I might say, hey, Kristin, you working on anything exciting? That's going to cause you to think with different neurotransmitters than you were normally. So I tell people, don't be robotic. If someone asks you how you're doing, say, oh, on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm about a 7, but I'm doing good.
Yeah.
You break the script and it causes people to think and absorb.
Yeah, it sure does. I can literally think back to customers that would respond to me and they would say fair to middling. Right. And I'd be like, what was that? Clearly that's like mediocre. Right. But like that's stuck with me because that's not a common response. Once in a while I'd get like shitty. Pardon my French. You know what I mean? And then you really are like, whoa, you're really taken aback on that because that's not the typical response either.
Yeah.
But that does happen.
We had someone who would always say same shit different day, which means they're bored. I mean, really it is. They're signaling
seriously.
that.
Bore out syndrome.
Yeah. And just to add a little bit and we'll move on. The problem also is we're always asking like, what do you do? And we want to find out the why, like what motivates someone. If you're threading, it's okay to eventually get to that. Guys are notorious. What do you do here in the big city? It's all about employment. But if you can get below the surface, then that's where you can get into dopamine areas. But also when I talk about being fake, you should get to know people, appreciate their journey. Everyone has a story. And it's important. So I want to get a little more scientific. And this was such a breakthrough for me, Kristin.
Yeah.
Is some people have a chemical called DRD4, and it is a dopamine receptor. What that means is they accept. Have you ever been around those people? They're just happy all the time. And you're like, how do they do this?
Yeah.
How can they be? And I used to just think that, there's something wrong with them that they don't get.
That's where I was. Yeah. I usually think, oh man, behind closed doors, not good.
Yeah. But then that's not necessarily true because if they have more significant dopamine receptors, which means they're receiving more dopamine, these people are happier. It's a mood enhancer. And I've already talked about the ventral striatum. These are people that want to try new things. Most of them have the DRD4 chemical in their brain. Now, children have this in high levels. If you've ever noticed, it's because everything's new to them. They're learning. If you put my little grandson, I have to keep him out of the studio. He's going to be all over it. Or he's going to grab my whiteboard and start writing. Children are like that because they're getting that dopamine rush because they're learning new things. But all of a sudden at some point in their lives, and hear me closely, folks, is you stop enjoying things. You're shutting off the dopamine receptors. You got to get them back.
Right.
You got to enjoy. I call it micro moments in training. You got to have micro moments. You'll never have this day again. Kristin will never have this birthday again.
Yeah.
So
that's depressing, but
try to have some micro moments today, Kristin.
Yeah, I think that's great. Even I was talking to this lady at the gym the other day, and she's really interesting, just relocated here, but she's a veterinarian. And of course I love animals. So I was talking about my dog, she's 18 and a half. And she was saying how she's like, I think we just need to remember, same thing goes with humans. Age is not a disease, right? And so she said so many people with their animals, they're like, oh, well, she's 18. I'm not taking her on walks anymore. And as humans, well, I'm in my 80s. I need to be careful. But it's like really the opposite of what we should be doing, because then you're losing that ability to experience and have those moments you're talking about. So we really, unless our body is not allowing us to do certain things, we need to continue to live within the parameters that our body is allowing.
Yeah, no, it's very true. All right, let's move on to serotonin.
Oh, yeah.
This stabilizes our mood, contributes to feelings of happiness and well-being. A little bit different than dopamine. Dopamine's kind of a high, and serotonin is more of that. I just feel warm and fuzzy. You're you're sitting by a campfire. You got some hot chocolate. It's that type of feeling. And everyone knows serotonin because you take it to sleep. That's what, that's the only time I used to hear of serotonin. But when you build trust and you provide comfort, Sometimes it can be a hug or I'm here for you. Those will enhance serotonin in a conversation. But the key is at work, people have to feel safe. We've hammered psychological safety so many times where people feel comfortable in giving feedback, or they just don't feel scared they're going to lose their job all the time.
Right.
And managers can really drive that serotonin where I trust, my manager walks in, I trust this person.
Right.
And I'm interested in what they have to say. So anyway.
I think it's interesting. You've probably seen the studies that a lot of serial killers were bedwetters. And it's not that bedwetting makes you a serial killer. It was how the families, the moms, the dads responded, maybe even siblings responded to the incidents of the bedwetting, where they harassed, ridiculed, humiliated, right? Like I know of some, I've read a lot of true crime books, and some of them, they would hang the wet, dirty, the sheets out. And that was like, oh, Billy peed his bed again, like to make Billy, I'm just making this up, but feel humiliated, right? Like they think that was going to make him stop wetting the bed. But, that's something where, when my son was younger and he did have some bedwetting issues, I remembered reading about that. And I was like, not that I would ever be nasty to him, but I remembered I was extra like, no big deal. We got this. Like, let's clean the bed. I got, like no shame whatsoever. And that creates that safe feeling. I'm safe. My mom is here for me. We're going to make this better versus the opposite. And man, that study, I've read actually too, and they really stuck with me.
It is, because bedwetting is an emotional, embarrassing. There's so many layers to it. And I remember Kristin, in my book, I called it junk and glass. I wanted to add a little bit of a humorous twist, but I was bullied as a kid. And the worst one, even though I got one time the seniors turned their class rings upside down and beat me in the head. It was initiation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I had a concussion. But anyway, and people wonder why I pursued the martial arts so vigorously.
Right.
I think I was still fighting these people.
Yeah.
But I was in the 8th grade and I was a late bloomer. And most of the guys had gone through puberty, and we used to have to shower together so you could see who had the pubes and who didn't.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had broken my foot in basketball camp. So I'm in a cast, I'm in shorts. So I saw them looking around and I'm like, oh crap. And next thing you know, they grab me and they're blocking the view of the driver. And they pants me.
Oh, you're on a bus?
I'm on a bus. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm on a school bus. They pants me, but not just pants, underwear and all.
Oh my
and
gosh.
They press my private parts against the back window. Like I'm pressed up against the window. And I had the humiliation. There was a car behind us. And the coach said that this car went by and this woman was like freaking out in the car. And he realized something's going on. That's when the assistant coach, I told this one at the time, but he became an FBI agent and we reconnected in DC, which was the coolest thing ever. But he come walking back. He was like 6'4". And of course they jerked my pants up and they're basically like, if you tell anybody, we'll kill you kind of thing. Oh
my gosh.
But
that'll stay with you for
everybody
life.
Laughed it off, but I'm telling you, it was a really devastating. And by the way, I never admitted the emotional damage from that until I wrote my book. I just played it cool. Like, it never happened is the way I handled it.
Yes.
And it was deep. And I think bedwetting is similar. So I started to be a serial killer, but I
went in a different direction.
Yeah, I went a different direction.
Oh, no, that will stay with you. I mean, there's things I flash back to, never quite at that level for me growing up, but there's things I think about. Right? Like that stick with you. Yeah. I remember like someone I had a crush on, and he had found out I had a crush on him, and we were actually like pretty good friends. And he was like, I don't date girls with acne, because I had acne in high school. Or no, that was 8th grade. Yeah. But and that stays with you, right? Like I still feel that. So yeah, so it's just so important that we're creating, especially as parents, but even as leaders, as we're tying it back to here, we have to create that safe place, and that the serotonin levels are the scientific why behind that.
Yeah, and at work, What do you think you did as far as creating a positive work culture, Kristin? Because that's where serotonin comes from. It's the work culture at work, I'm saying.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple things that you'd done in the past at the bank.
Well, I would always start off with a welcome basket, right? So like from the get-go, they know that they're not just a number to me, like they were special. I went and put together a welcome basket with all the things they would need for the day-to-day at the office, right? And some personal accoutrement. But so that I would take them to lunch the very first day, and that's just welcome. But then from there, on a day-to-day basis, I was always honest, but it would come from a positive place. Like, okay, so you're doing this and that's wonderful. I also observed this, and here's how you're going to tweak that, and you'll be a lot more successful. So my approach was coming from really like what was done well, and then provided feedback. And it was always done in a transparent way. It wasn't like they were hearing that I had said something to maybe my assistant, and then my assistant had to go and tell that, you know what I mean? Like it was coming, it was direct communication. So I hope for the most part, and of course I grew stronger in this as I went on as a leader, but for the most part, I do feel like the trust was there because that mutual respect was there.
Yeah. All right, introduce our next one.
Okay, so we have oxytocin and team dynamics. And, with oxytocin, it's often called the bonding hormone or the love drug. And it plays a key role in building trust within teams. So perfect segue.
Yeah, perfect segue from serotonin into oxytocin. But Kristin, oxytocin is so much not misunderstood, but the only thing you hear, it's involved, of course, in intimacy.
Right.
It's involved, believe it or not, women get a high level of oxytocin when they're breastfeeding a child, and it's involved in childbirth. So those are 3 times that oxytocin plays an important role in the brain. But small amounts of oxytocin happen through human touch. Giving someone a hug. And I always tell people, if someone is in crisis and it's appropriate, don't just sit beside of them, have your leg against their leg, have your hand on their shoulder, have your arm around them. I'll tell you what,
not in the office, but
not in the office. I'm talking about in a crisis. But what I would do in the office, if I walked in the break room, whoever's closest to me, I would pat them on the shoulder as I walk by, or maybe even a slight squeeze, like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, I did that too.
Giving hugs, you have to be careful at work, but I'm just saying a hug is so powerful. Now, have you ever seen a couple together and like one looks great like a model and the other not so much, and you go, how in the world, besides money, I'm saying, let's say there's not money involved, you wonder how those two, and we always say, I just didn't have any chemistry, or why do I have chemistry with that person? Oxytocin plays a part in that. There's some things that we still don't understand about why people are drawn, but there are certain people that can release oxytocin and dopamine. They're drug dealers. They're spreading it by the words they use, their body language, their touch. And you and I talked about why women don't like weak men, and we talked about confidence. And part of that is also in that confidence that can release oxytocin.
Right.
And when let's go to a first date here, Kristin. Okay. 2 people on a first date, they might do those, pre-bridge cues where someone's looking in the eye, they're tilting their head, playing with their hair. Yeah. But all of a sudden they laugh. And what do? They touch you. That is an absolute oxytocin moment. That's the love drug kicking in, especially if you liked it. But that's how we are releasing oxytocin and some dopamine. But dopamine might be through the conversation. But once that touch happens, it can produce oxytocin. And then let the sparks fly.
Yeah, it is really wild, the science behind all of that. That must be what Bill Murray has going on. I use him as an example a lot.
You do.
It's like, wow, he is a confident man that just draws people in, but not easy on the eyes. But, it's really important in leadership because, going back to that trust piece, it enhances your team's loyalty and commitment from team members. So that's incredibly important to keep in mind, that we're telling you this for a reason, because it ultimately is going to benefit you and your team.
Yeah, and if you're a manager, you need to understand these chemicals in the brain, because you want people, not that you're going to battle, but you want people who would go to battle with you. And they believe in you. They believe in the vision of
Yeah.
the company. And if you get an understanding of how the brain works, you can enhance that a great deal.
I have to say, I actually forgot to bring this up. You know, something else, and you can maybe give me the psychology behind this or the science behind it, but something where that has really kept me at a bank or at a branch or at a company is when your manager or even corporate brings or buys food for the team. Like, that is huge. Lunch on a Friday, or you show up and there's a bagel spread there, right? Like that type of stuff, people don't realize, like, okay, let's say it's a $30 investment to get bagel schmear locks, right? Like, you bring that for the team. That investment, that $30 investment, that goes so far. I feel like food is definitely the way to the soul in so many ways. And I don't know if you can pull some science out of your pocket on that.
I can, because people, when you eat together, it's a form of intimacy. So you do get dopamine from it. Number one is it affects, your taste buds, your smell, and I'll lead into something with that. But this gives you that serotonin feeling when you are together eating. Now, there's physical pleasure in eating also, and you can't underestimate that. You even get some endorphins. Have you ever seen somebody go, "Oh my gosh, that's the best dessert"?
Totally.
So you get that, but you do get the serotonin, oxytocin, particularly serotonin, because it's comfortable. You're safe. We're eating. We're connecting. And so it's interesting that you brought that up, because, Kristin, I'm actually doing a study. I'm going to be adding smell to our to my training programs.
Yeah.
So one time, I'm kind of into cool cologne, Kristin, and you and I have never had this discussion, but I especially, if I'm on the prowl. I mean, if I'm trying to meet someone
on the prowl,
I want to smell good, but I did not realize how important that is. But I remember Polo Black came out. This was years ago. And I'm down at the main federal law enforcement training center in Georgia. And I am just walking, and this lady grabbed me and she goes, "Oh my God, you smell so good." Yeah. And I thought, wow, that's something. And another time, I'm on the street in Charleston. There's a street vendor, and they're giving away something. And I had sprayed this cologne on. This was not Polo Black. But anyway, I go up and try one of those. And this lady said, "Oh my gosh, you smell so good. Have another." And gave me two samples. But I began to notice, unless you have an allergy, because I do have a friend with an allergy, that if you can balance smell, and I'm not going to go into that right now, but it triggers the brain, so it does release chemicals. Smell is important, and of course, if you have bad breath and other things, it's the exact opposite.
The opposite.
You're going to get some cortisol and stress going on. So anyway, I will be back, folks, with a little more information on taste and smell. So I'm glad you brought that up.
That is huge. I know. And I think it's important that we give a little heads up here. Don't wear too much cologne. You didn't, Ron. You were like perfectly scented. But I'm talking about like when I saw you last. But there are some people, and I usually find it that it's maybe like Slavic cultures, different cultures where they really they really wear a lot. And so you don't want to wear so much that I feel like I can taste it. That's important, but yes, that if you just like a moderate amount, that will really make a difference.
Yeah, so true. All right, now we're going to talk about testosterone. And testosterone is associated with assertiveness and confidence. Now, we want all the empathy, we want belonging, we want trust, we want all of that. But there are times in your leadership that you have to be assertive. And if you're not assertive, you're eventually going to just be washed out. People are just not going to respect you. So testosterone is important. It's released in the testes, and it has to be, it can be from diet, it can be from exercise and all these things, but also from practice. Kristin, this is where fear kicks in. I told you sometime we'll do one on the physiological factors of fear, but testosterone minimizes fear. It helps you ignite your passion, and it's so important. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's often viewed as a dominance hormone. And in leadership, it can be beneficial if you manage it correctly. And going back to what you just said, Ron.
Yeah, and I think, the word toxic masculinity, I won't go down that road, but what happened is men got confused. And I've heard guys say it. They're so awkward to even help. I've been flying a lot, and again, I saw a couple times women struggling with their overhead bag, and I would just reach up with one hand. But I have to admit, I was hesitant because it's like, oh, you're showing off your masculinity here.
So when you say men got confused, it wasn't the men. It's like are you saying it's more like the way people view men?
Yeah, thanks for that question, because they don't know how they're going to be perceived.
Right.
So instead of just, like there was a time, we call it chivalry, when men open doors and different things like that, or if something's heavy, they would pick it up. We went to the pendulum swung in the culture where almost like you're insulting a woman if you offer your strength in that situation. I was always a little more conservative. My boss that I love, I talked to her about 3 weeks ago. She was liberal. And so they're cleaning out this closet. They're trying to get something down. It's two women. I said, oh, I can see the need for masculinity in this room. So I go over and I get it down. And
funny.
she was a good sport. She just laughed. She said something like it finally came in handy. You know what I mean? But it was fun.
Funny.
But that's what I mean.
It's fun when you can play with it like that.
God, I wish we could get back to
healthy.
that.
I know. And that's how it should be. Just a healthy banter.
Yeah.
There was, I see this trending, and this is like current, like right now, yesterday even, that there was a girl fell off of a Disney cruise. She was on the fourth.
I saw that.
Yeah. What are they? The fourth tier or whatever. And her dad jumped in after her and saved her. But, it's like that's when, we need this testosterone. Like that's when people say, toxic masculinity, but we need that. So that was a beautiful thing to see, that fatherly instinct, but it's also a male instinct to help and to use what was God given, really, right? And talking about we can go a little more into, we can start diving into endorphins and stress relievers, but what would you say about, where do you really feel like the toxic masculinity was born out of?
There's no doubt in my mind it came through feminism, the more radical aspects of feminism. And watch a feminist march and listen to the words and and then it became a talking point, an echo chamber where all the time, toxic masculinity. I don't know how many times I heard that. But I did have guys say that they were cautious about dating. At what point do you touch a woman? I heard a lot from just dating and being around the office. Men are walking on eggshells. They don't know whether to say, I usually tell them, just if you want a compliment, say you look nice. Of course, you don't need to be saying you look hot at the office. No one's arguing that. But I'm just saying it created a barrier. And I give a lot of credit to stand-up comedians and what they're calling bro pods. Some of these guys on podcasts, they just continued. Now, I'm not saying it was all appropriate. I'm just saying they didn't back down. And now people are getting more comfortable, because these things can be a lot of fun between men and women.
Right.
It always lights my fire a little bit if a woman can like badger me a little, put me in my place. I like that. And if they can take it. Now, if they can't take it, it's not fun. So
right. Yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
I think a healthy male can take the banter and to your point, enjoys the banter. And I think that's when you can tell that there was, I don't know how to quite explain, but like a healthy upbringing, right? Where maybe you feel safe in your own skin. And so you can take that banter. And I feel like because I'm a banter queen. So when I have like offended men before with banter, generally I have read them as like a low self-esteem or kind
Insecure,
of struggled with.
exactly.
So so that does send a message, like overly sensitive men. I mean, I still remember one of my friends, big buff cowboy. I was driving my truck on the beach and it got stuck and he pushed it. And, 101, four-wheel drive 101, once you get going, you keep going until you're in an area that you're not going to get stuck again, right? So if I'm in soft sand, I'm going to go down to the wet sand and stop. He was so mad at me for driving off and leaving him to walk to meet me in the wet sand. And I will tell you, something clicked in my mind, and I was like, I never saw him the same way because I
Right.
saw this
Exactly.
little boy. And so you have to be really careful, and you have to ask yourself when you see yourself responding that way, this is men and women, but where is that coming from, right?
I
So
think you
that's
nailed
huge.
it. I really think you nailed it. Years
Yeah.
ago, I had this guy. He was good looking, but he couldn't get women.
Mm,
And he couldn't understand why, but he was always defending himself and always trying to impress.
yeah.
And, if you
We
lift
see right
weights,
through that.
yeah. And if you lift weights and you're walking around, flexing, the beach is that away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But was very defensive, could not take any jesting at all. And you got to be a little self-deprecating if in
Yeah.
those scenarios, if you're confident. And there's nothing more fun to me if I know it's in good taste to go back and forth with a woman a little bit,
Yeah.
to play
Yeah,
around and have fun.
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. All
all right.
right. Should we go into endorphins and
Yeah,
stress
because
relievers?
and I put these two last, Kristen, because
Mm-hmm.
testosterone is released differently,
Right.
but endorphins play a similar role. So introduce us.
Yeah. So endorphins are the body's natural painkillers and stress relievers. I mean, we talk about exercise, right? Like I've really gotten into it over the last 6 weeks. Hey, a little fun tidbit. Ron and I both listen to Irish rock when we are lifting. So you call it your power day,
On
or what
my
do you call
power
it?
day,
Your power
which
day.
is today, by the way, pray for
All
me, ladies and
right.
gentlemen. Oh, it'll be Thursday by then, but yeah, I'm going to do. I try to one day a week have a pretty extreme workout,
Okay.
and that's going to be today. Um, so, Kristen, the people do not understand this, but I remember when I would compete in martial arts tournament, it looks painful. You're scoring that powerful point or whatever. The moment, now there's other things that's going on in the brain, but once
Mm-hmm.
you get into combat, you get such an endorphin dump. You do not feel that pain. Like I was watching a UFC fight one time with a lady friend, and she was like, "Oh, oh, oh," every time he
Yeah.
hit, and I'm like, "Hey, what's up there?" She's like, "Oh my God, that's got to be hurting him so bad." I said, "He
Yeah.
don't feel that right now.
Right.
He is
Feel it
filled with
tomorrow.
testosterone and
Yeah.
endorphins." Yeah, you're
Right.
right. Once the fight's over, they're going to feel horrible the
Yeah.
next day. But that's what it does. That's how people run with broken bones. That's
Yeah.
and of course there's the runner's high
Right.
that
Right.
people get. So
Carrie Strug, who vaulted with a broken ankle.
exactly.
Yeah.
So finish this up on endorphins, Kristen.
Yeah. So leaders who encourage physical activities, I know you've talked about that, and that goes along with healthy habits. They can help their teams manage stress better. I know when I led my last team, we would do like, okay, we were all doing the intermittent fasting together, right? And we would all be talking about our lifestyle, like, okay, we would go hiking together as a team, and then even other people in the same office space, we were like, okay, we went mountain climbing, right? Like, so it's really, when you encourage that, especially coming from the top, like you've been talking about, so leaders who are encouraging that, it is such a benefit to not only the leader, but the team, because of that stress management aspect. And ultimately, you're bonding, and it's going to lead to higher morale. And it's also, I call it, in banking, and I'm sure just in sales in general, there's your sticky product, right? Like, so in banking, when you get somebody to sign up for direct deposit, as one could imagine. It's a pain in the butt to change your direct deposit. So that is a sticky product. So that just means they're going to stay with the company longer, because when they think about switching, they think about all their direct deposits and the automatic payments that they'd have to switch, and they say, no, thanks. So it's sticky. Now, when you're leading a team, you also have the sticky product are you buying them bagels once in a while? Are you taking them out to lunch? Are you guys doing things as a team? I mean, team bonding exercises are there for a reason. It's a sticky product, and it will keep the good ones with you.
It is so true. I have just absolutely loved this episode. So if you've stayed with us, I want to give you a tip. And this is cutting edge AI psychology. So in taking a break, when you take a break, you breathe, you want to get serotonin. That's always what's going to relax you. But what happens is on our break, we stare at our phone, and it's called convergent vision. It is proven to release cortisol. So instead of taking a break, we're actually doing a little stress induction.
Yeah.
Whereas it has been proven through deep breathing, getting your oxygen, and panoramic vision. In other words, you're focusing on nothing. Kristin, you go for a walk and you're looking around. And by the way, to get outside, you get the vitamin E, if you can do that and just start looking around. And by the way, I only come across this science not long ago, and I've been trying to work this in my daily routine, because I wake up in the morning, I look at my phone. I'm just being honest.
Oh, I do too.
So convergent vision right out of the gate. So I'm trying to change up my morning habits. But guys, if you do that, it's going to help you with your serotonin levels, keep you relaxed. And I got to tell you, Kristin, I know we've said this before. There's a lot of our episodes that I would have paid money if I could have gotten. But this one, I didn't understand. We used to do, jiu-jitsu at the academy, and man, I would be so sweaty. But I would go get that shower, and not only did you accomplish something, we've talked about the amygdala and the hippocampus, but also I had that adrenaline dump, and then all of a sudden, in that hot shower, the serotonin's kicking in, and it's a magical thing. And that's why I so encourage people when I coach to work out out to actually get to the point where you can even sweat. It's very healthy, because you're getting impurities out, just like when you urinate, you're getting impurities out.
Yes. I love that you're saying that, because honestly, for those just starting out to get into going to the gym, I used to work out in my living room to videos, and it does something. It's better than nothing, right? But now I literally crave going to the gym. I'm going to be going here in a couple hours. I'm looking forward to going to the gym. And what's the science behind that, Ron?
Well, we've covered it. I mean, we've literally covered that.
I mean, everything we're talking about.
But we do have to, it becomes a habit. And by the way, Kristin, where you got back in, as you know, it varies with people, by the way. There's a new study say that it takes over 2 months to build a new habit, or even habit stacking takes a while. But there will be times when you will miss one day and our brain is like, another day's fine. It breaks the cycle, the habitual cycle.
Yes.
So that's where you got to get back up quickly. Try not to miss more than a day. Or if you come down with an illness, you got a cold, you miss a week, and it's so hard to get back in. But that is the difference right there between excellence and mediocre, is when you can get back on the horse. So
I always say, just drive yourself to the gym. I heard a lady at the gym the other day telling somebody, the hardest part for me is getting here. Once I'm here, I'm good. And I'm like, that is so true. So put yourself in the car, get dressed, and drive there. I don't care if you're bloated, ladies, right? Get in the car, drive there. And once you're in the gym, it'll kick into gear.
Kristin, I got a lot of response. I did a reel on a 5-second rule. And that's exactly what I do in coaching. In 5 seconds, I can talk myself into waiting another hour, maybe tomorrow. But in that 5 seconds, I usually just sprint and put on my workout gear. I literally just go, I'm doing it. Boom. Because if you sit there and think about working out, it's so easy to at least procrastinate, and then procrastinate ends up you're in the evening. Then you're like, okay, one day is not going to kill me. I'll work out tomorrow.
You know, I love that you're saying this, and I have to, the best stuff just naturally flows at the end, I think, Ron. But this is something that explains what I do, because once in a while, like the kids or Dave, they want me to make like cookies or like something, bake something. And I will literally go, okay, I make myself get up and I go, how fast can you do this? And I'm like, bah! I like run around, I'm grabbing the sugar, grabbing the flour. And I was like, why do I do this? But now it makes sense. It's like, just put your head down and go and get it done. And that really speaks to me on what you were just saying.
I
do
clean
you
on
really?
Saturdays. I stop the housekeeper. It's a long story, but I clean on Saturdays, and it's like a race for me. It's how I challenge myself.
Yes.
I have to have that challenge. All right. We've gone
Love
on
it.
and on. Kristen, happy birthday. Hope
Thank
this
you.
day's wonderful, even though people
Yes.
will be listening Thursday
That's all right.
to this episode.
No big deal. Thank you for the song in the beginning. That was awesome and unexpected. Really appreciate it. Great episode. Ron put this one together. It's based on what you train. I've really been enjoying your clips that you've been posting on Instagram. So I think more of those.
I appreciate you reposting with your 15
My
million
pleasure.
followers.
Someday I'll have that.
All right, everybody. Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.